Hey guys, just want to take a second and let you all know that Jase is the driving force behind this channel, and as long as he is having fun and wanting to do something like this, we will help support him.
I'm Jase.
I'm Kobe.
And I'm Chantel.
And we're KCJ Adventures.
And I want to kind of tell you about my son's brain surgery he had November a couple years ago. Let's start from the beginning. He went to school one day and complained to his teacher that he had a headache. And during this time we had the COVID pandemic going on, and one of the signs was a headache, so we thought, okay, we'll watch him. And they came home and complained to his grandma about his headache. And our kid never has complained about anything, especially headaches. And then we got home, Kobe and I got home, and he told us his head hurt. And we're like, okay, we'll watch him overnight and see how he does. And that night, he went to bed like normal. Didn't say much about his headache, did he, Kobe?
He didn't sleep that well. He moaned and groaned most of the night. Usually he's just a sound sleeper.
So we knew that something wasn't right. So the next day, he was still not like himself.
And he asked to stay home from school.
He has to stay home from school, which he never does. So I went to work, and my husband here stayed home with them, and I told him about my day, and I got a phone call from Kobe, and he said that our son was lethargic, and not like himself, and was nauseous and throwing up. So Kobe here packed up a blanket, a pillow. Jase was still in his pajamas at this point, and came pick me up from work. We went to the hospital in Salt Lake, Primary Children's, and on the way up to the hospital, he was very lethargic, threw up a couple times in the truck.
He was confused.
He didn't know where he was at, didn't want to talk to us. He was mad at me for keeping him awake.
And he wanted to go to the Lego store.
Yeah, he wanted to go to the Lego store. That's our son. But we get up to Primary Children's Hospital, and we explain to them what was going on. We get back to the emergency room.
And he acts fine.
And he acts perfectly fine. He's alert. He can answer questions.
He just wanted to go to the Lego store.
He just wanted to not go to school that day is what it was. I wish that was the case. The doctors at Primary Children's Hospital were amazing. What we described to them, they took him back for an MRI, CT scan, and many other tests you can do with the brain. And they came back to us.
A bunch of people started coming into the rooms, doctors and nurses and
specialists.
It was. I just was standing there. I got pushed out of there, and there were so many people coming in.
He got blood work done. They had to call in the IV team because he has small veins and it was hard for him to draw blood. But guys, these doctors and nurses and their teams are amazing at Primary Children's. So we get all of these tests done, MRIs done, CT scan done, and we get the images back. And he has cavernous malformations.
And one was acting up and causing him issues, and that's what they needed to take care of. So as soon as they start showing me these slides, and I don't know if I jokingly said this or what, but I remember looking up at the doctor and saying, yeah, I guess I'm not going home tonight.
And we did not go home that night.
We didn't go home for quite a while.
Remember, we are 3 hours away from this hospital, so we went up just as an emergency precaution, didn't think we were staying anything overnight. My husband and my son got admitted to the hospital for observation. My husband stayed with him. I had to drive back down to where we live, get stuff, because we were staying at least that night, for sure.
I didn't get back to us for a week, but that was the next day, wasn't it?
That was the next day. So, the next day I went home. I packed us for a week.
The first night you stayed with him, their nurses were really good. He was in the ICU unit. They were trying to give him pills and steroids to bring down the swelling so he could go in and operate. The nurses were really good. They let me stay up there until about midnight, and we didn't even think about finding a room. So you stayed with him the first night, and I went downstairs in the lobby and found a couch.
On the couch.
Slept on the couch there in the lobby. I made good friends with the security guard, and he knew why I was there and what I was doing, so he left me alone after he figured out who I was. And that was the first night. Then I don't know how well you slept, but I didn't sleep that well.
I was on a hospital couch in his room.
As soon as visiting hours opened back up, I was back in his room.
Is that 6 a.m.?
Yeah, 6 a.m., 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then we had a nurse come in, and she told us about the Ronald McDonlod house and to try to get registered for that. So
We talked to a social worker.
yeah, we had to talk to a social worker. We had to get put on a list.
Get our flu shot.
They had to verify that we had our COVID shots, and they had to verify that we had flu shots. So we had to go get flu shots at primaries that day because we usually don't get the flu vaccine. So we did all that. We jumped through the hoops, and then about 7 o'clock that night, then they had a room available for one of us, or for both of us, to go stay at the Ronald McDonlod house.
So we had you stay there that second night. You were able to get a little bit of rest, correct?
Yep.
I stayed back in the hospital with my son, and they will come up every couple hours to just observe him, get his vitals. We learned during this that his resting heart rate is low compared to other kids his age. Because my beats gets so to a certain point during the night when you're asleep. And usually it's in the 60s or 70s. Apparently he's a deep sleeper because his drops down to 50s and stays, that's his average. He got down to 49, that's when we had the machine feed. And we learned this the first couple of nights, about 50 was his normal heart rate when he sleeps. Which is good to know for many different reasons. So we stayed through this process. He got observed for a couple of days. We went on a Thursday.
Yeah, we went in on a Thursday, and they did surgery
on
Monday. So we had to stay Thursday. They got him on steroids. And then Friday, we met with the surgeon. I met with the surgeon because you were gone.
I was gone, come back down here,
but
crying the entire time.
I met with the surgeon. He was explaining what he was going to do and how he was going to fix him. And I really don't remember much about that conversation. I just said, you fix him. Get him back to where he needs to be, and we'll move on. And so during this conversation, he mentioned that more than likely we would be up at the hospital for a month after the surgery for his recovery time. So I called you and told you, this is what the doctor's saying, so we've got a plan for a month. We got, let's start calling into our jobs. Let's start figuring that out so we don't lose our jobs, or figure out who's going to take care of him, and 1 week at a time, or if we're both up there, what we need to do to come up with this plan.
And thankfully we have a great company and coworkers behind us that support us through this process and covered our job responsibilities as we were going through this process. So your surgery's on Monday. He was in surgery first thing in the morning, like 8 o'clock.
It was early.
It was an early surgery, like the first one of the day. I know as a parent, they tell you it's going to be so long.
Yeah, they said 6 hours, and by hour 8, I was
nervous.
We were wondering what was going on.
They didn't give us any updates throughout this entire surgery.
But they were busy.
Busy.
They did. I think they did call us a couple times and say things are going well, but it as a parent, I guess it wasn't enough for me. Like, I wanted to be back there.
I want to actually see
in the room, but they did try to take care of us. I mean,
they gave us food.
We had a little nurse that would offer us water and snacks and stuff. I mean, they were taking care of us, and I think it was just us being anxious because the doctor said 8 hours or 6 hours.
6 hours.
6 hours, and so we were telling our family, we were telling friends, and probably it was mostly family that we called and said, hey, it was 6 hours, and this is what time we went in. And so by 6.5 hours, everybody's calling us wondering where he is, and we don't have answers, which is making us frantic in a way because we don't know what's going on. So 6.5 hours turns into 7, 7 turns into 7.5, and then I darn near close to the 8-hour mark, we got a call saying he was in recovery.
That was the happiest moment of my life, getting that phone call. You can go see him now. They said that the surgery went awesome, better than planned, right?
Yeah, better than planned. They were able to get the majority of that tumor out. The doctor was afraid, or the surgeon was afraid he was going to have to leave some in. And if he left some in, it would
grow again.
It had a chance of growing again. And so the reason why it took so long is he got out what he felt comfortable with. They took him back in for an MRI, re-MRI'd it, and he felt comfortable enough to go back in and remove the rest of it after he seen that MRI. So that's why it took longer, is they got it all out. They made sure to get it all out, and they did a really good job.
I think it's amazing how they're able to go in the middle of surgery to go to another MRI and then go back and finish the surgery. That would amaze me. He is in recovery. He has been intubated, so we go back and he has tubes down his throat. He's hooked to all his machines.
The only thing I remember at that point is I remember that image of him being out, but I also remember the surgeon coming in and saying, okay, we've disturbed the brain, we've done this, so when he wakes up, he might not talk, he might not know where he is, he might not know any of this stuff, and he might be violent. He might be angry and violent. He
may hate us.
It might be a new little kid. So all these thoughts are going through my head, and then when he starts to wake up, he looks right over at Chantel and I, and he says, hi, Mom, hi, Dad, and then he closes his eyes, and goes back to sleep.
Which I think shocked us, because he wasn't supposed to talk for a couple days.
Yeah, the doctor kind of looked kind of stunned as well at that point, the surgeon.
During the surgery, they had to cut his jaw muscle to get the cut they needed to get to where they needed to go. So we were told he wouldn't speak for a couple days, he wouldn't eat for a couple days, and I believe it was the day after surgery that he wanted real food.
Yeah, he wanted chicken nuggets. He didn't want that liquid meal.
No, he didn't want pudding. He wanted pudding, but not for a meal. Well, not for a snack. So surgery was on Monday. The next day, he wanted real food. He got the rocket pass, which is he can go anywhere in the hospital grounds. Just has to be in a wheelchair.
Anywhere on the campus.
Anywhere on the hospital campus.
Yeah.
It's a big hospital, guys. So we get a rocket pass. He gets to go to the kids zone where he can go play foosball. He played with cars. He made Play-Doh. He made snow. Puppets out of paper bags. Like, these guys went all out so that they feel comfortable.
Not only that, but we were part of the Ronald McDonlod place. We got into that, and there at the hospital there's a Ronald McDonlod area.
Family room.
And he could go up there and get different kinds of snacks and read books and do different games and activities there as well.
And also at the Ronald McDonlod House at the hospital, as long as we were staying at the Ronald McDonlod House off campus, we were able to go there and shower at the hospital. We were able to go take advantage of that. So we also had washing machines there. We didn't use that part of it. The Ronald McDonlod House, we made sure we were taken care of. Primal shows, made sure we were taken care of. Overall, for what the experience was, we felt confident and comfortable with what we had to deal with.
I would not recommend going through this. And for those of you that have, I'm sorry, I feel for you. I think we are lucky for our first outcome. Like, after he was able to talk an hour after his surgery, if that, he was able to do a lot of things that the surgeon said he wouldn't be able to do for a while.
He was able to walk that next day with assistance.
Yeah.
He's still wobbly.
He was able to do a lot of things. I mean, they said we'd be up there a month, and we went in on a Thursday and we left on a Friday, so we were there a week and a day. His recovery was a miracle, really.
They were amazed at how fast he recovered. We came home, he had to do some physical therapy. He couldn't go to school right away because they were worried about infections and all that stuff.
Yeah, so he was out of school for a couple weeks, I think.
A couple weeks after we got home.
Yeah.
And his teachers at school were pretty good to work with.
Yeah, they dropped homework off at our houses. They called and checked on him.
His school, like his classmates made him get well cards. We had signs on our gate saying, "Get well, Jase." The community came together and wanted to help us out. They knew about what happened, and in a small town, stuff like this helps us come together more. Our neighbors knew exactly what was going on. They asked us. They continue to ask us how we're doing, how he's doing. But he went to physical therapy for a month and a half after he was home.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to physical therapy before school. His school starts at 7:15, so he went to physical therapy and then went to school and had to do his regular homework and stuff like that. So we want him to get behind. He has progressed and is doing pretty well, I would say, for what he went through. He's a strong kid.
Yeah, and he's not excited he has to possibly go back through this.
And we told him if it wasn't life-threatening or wouldn't better his life, quality of life, we wouldn't be going through this. It's been amazing to see him grow through this process.
He's definitely grown. He's definitely
matured.
He has. He's definitely matured through this. He's done well, and if he has to have surgery again, I think he'll do well through that as well. So we will keep you as updated as Jase wants us to. Again, if Jase doesn't approve these videos, we're not going to post them. This is totally up to him, and all the information that we give out has to be okay with him and us as a whole.